Well, when you became the 15th president of Austin College, you also joined a small but mighty group of women who lead colleges and universities in this country. How did that feel personally and professionally?
I remember the moment that it hit me that I was the first woman president at Austin College. And of course, I knew that intellectually, right? That had been said over and over again, and I was aware of that. But I remember when we had the inauguration, and the college had prepared a kind of photo montage of all of the presidents of the college. And I remember seeing it for the first time and thinking, oh my goodness, I really stand out in this crowd. And it really did strike me then that that is a historical moment. You know, I don't always think of myself as sort of leading as a woman, although I am aware that as a woman, my leadership style is certainly shaped by that and by my experiences as a woman. But it was really humbling at that moment to think that what this means, not just obviously for me personally, but for all of the women who have wanted opportunities and doors to be open for them. Austin College, as you know, has such a long history of educating women. We're almost coming up on 100 years of coeducation. So the sense that there was support here for women, for our leadership styles, for our growth personally and professionally, that was very strong in the air at Austin College. And I felt very welcomed.
In 8 years, the numbers of women presidents have increased slightly. We're not making huge strides there, but they are increasing. And do you or are you active in ways to encourage other women in the world of academia to aspire to that role?
It's very important to me. One thing that really struck me, I was at a conference earlier this year, and it's a conference that I'd been going to for many years. It's a meeting of the Annapolis group, and this is a group that is composed of really the top liberal arts colleges in the country, and the presidents meet every year and the provosts meet along with those meetings. So I've been going to this meeting for a long time. And a friend of mine who had been a president for a few years, he's an African-American man, turned to me and said, you know, there's more women and more people of color in this room. These jobs must be getting really hard if they're letting us do them. And so there's maybe a little something to that. But I do think there's more acceptance of diversity and people at institutions beginning to see that it's an asset to have diverse perspectives and to have leadership models that students can relate to. As our student bodies become more diverse, we want to be able for students to see themselves reflected overall in our faculty and staff. I have been part of several groups that really aim to help women, and I've started on my own a kind of informal mentoring structure where I work with women in small groups over in virtual space. We meet once a week for an 8-week period, and we go through kind of a curriculum of certain kinds of leadership skills. And it's been great. I've learned a lot from the women I've worked with, and it's been great because they've gotten to meet each other. And my ultimate goal is more women college presidents. So
let's all hope so. Right?
Yeah.
And we have a new woman in the ranks, as we know today, right?
Yes, at Baylor.
At Baylor.
So I'm very excited to reach out to her. The presidents in Texas of the private independent institutions have a really tight network, and some of the people that were the most supportive of me when I first got here and the first sort of real hands out professionally saying, what can we do? Were other presidents in Texas. And I know, Oscar, you built very deep relationships with your colleagues across the state when you were here, and I've tried to continue that, and I know the next president of Austin College will want that network as well.
So you've also, in addition to your responsibilities here on campus, you've held leadership positions in higher education boards at both the national and state level. Are there a couple of important takeaways maybe that you could share with us from those experiences and encounters?
I think one important thing is that the more you see what happens on other campuses, the more you appreciate Austin College. So that is very, very true. We have certainly faced challenges as an institution, and as a sector, private higher education faces incredible challenges. But at Austin College, we face those challenges together. When we have something that we need to overcome, whether it's financial or cultural or social, we gather together, students and faculty and our community partners and our alumni and our board, and we try to tackle it together. And it's shocking to me how many campuses are divided along those vectors. And there's really no sense that we will solve problems together. And so that piece, just from seeing that broad swath has been very meaningful to me. The other thing I think I have learned from my work on boards connected to national higher education issues is that leadership really matters. I'm not sure that was always true. I think there may have been periods of relative stability where, as long as you didn't mess anything up, your institution would be just fine. This is not that period. And I see institutions, rising and falling based on not just the presidential leadership, but the leadership at every level, including good faculty leadership, board leadership, student leadership. So we're lucky at Austin College that we have both a community that supports engaging in problems together, but also that we recognize that leadership happens at all these different levels and can support that.
Well, you're already talking about higher education under pressure, which is something I definitely would like to hear more about, and I'm sure everybody else would too, because it is during the time that you've been here, during the time that I've been a board member, things have changed dramatically. Things like, student debt, tuition pricing, the correlation between a college degree and the job world.
Right.
All of these things have become flashpoints for the media, for parents and students. So from the time that you've been here, how do you see us sort of weathering these changes that we really, in many ways, we have little control over?
Yes, we can only do what we can do to control our destiny. We cannot solve the macroeconomic issues that underlie some of the stress, although we do have to respond to that. I think that the sort of challenges to liberal arts education are sort of twofold. One challenge is the charge that it is just not worth it. And that charge, I think, is very disingenuous. Most of the pundits who make that charge, in fact, send their children to liberal arts colleges.
Of course they do.
It is the truth, and it is pretty universally acknowledged when push comes to shove that the kind of education we offer at Austin College and that our sister schools offer is the very best form of education. And it's the best form both in terms of how it shapes you as a young person and what it prepares you to do in the rest of your life. And it is that relationship-driven, student-centered, liberating liberal arts education is what everyone would hope for themselves and their children. So the people who are saying it's not worth it usually mean it's not worth it for other people, not necessarily it isn't worth it for their children and themselves. And that is the important question, because the second big issue is who has access to this high-quality education? Who gets to sit in a room with one of our PhD, research-productive, passionate teaching faculty, and who gets to sit, with 10 kids, and who gets to sit in a room with 700 kids and a TA barely out of, I taught my first class at a university, about 18 months after I graduated from college. I was the teacher of record. I learned a lot. I don't know what the students learned. I learned a lot. So, who has access? And that's the real challenge. And often when people say it's not worth it, what they mean is, I don't want to invest either as a taxpayer or as a citizen in your children accessing this kind of education. And that, to me, is the tragedy. And again, that question of how will we sustain this high quality and make sure that it is accessible to students from a wide range of backgrounds. That was the problem 50 years ago for Austin College, it's the problem 20 years, it's the problem today, and it's going to be the problem 50 years from now. We're never going to solve that because we're always going to want to be making the quality higher and the doors open wider. And so, in a certain sense, the job of the president is to keep responding to that problem, not to solve it.
You're very clued into the national scene in higher education, so could you pull out your crystal ball and just to, obviously we don't expect you to know everything. Well, we do,
Well,
but, you know. Just give us a glimpse of what you see.
One of the things that I say a lot is that the problems facing our sector in higher education are national, but the solutions are local. There is no magic bullet. Each college is going to have to determine for itself how it will provide a mixture of quality, affordability, philanthropic support, additional revenue streams, community partnerships that make this balance possible. And so I think the colleges that will thrive and survive will be the ones that create the most successful local solutions. And we are not going to be able, many of my faculty colleagues have heard me say this, and the vice presidents in the room have heard me say it. They might repeat it back.
Yeah.
That, you know, we have to be creative and solve our own problem. We can't, there's no handbook, there's no guidebook. You can't go to a conference or read one of the national journals and say, okay, we're going to do what such and such did. We've had to look at our own creative solutions, and we've done that. You know, the way we built the campus housing is a perfect example. We invented a model to where our supporters could help us finance a project that we then eventually were able to purchase. We had to think that up ourselves, and that's just one example, but it's the kind of creativity that worked here because of who we are. You couldn't say, well, every college should do this. So we have to keep that creativity moving forward.
Yeah, the local, that's an interesting way to think about it. So we'll be looking for those,
Yeah.
you know, not looking for some magic bullet. There is no, as
No.
you're saying, there's no magic bullet out there,
There isn't.
right?
There isn't.
You know.
Yeah, and you know, you sometimes hear college boards saying, well, we want to bring in an expert to tell us what to do. Yeah. There's no one who can tell you. We're in uncharted waters. And so it really is looking at what are the assets, what are the things that we have as a strength. One of the key strengths that Austin College has is its relationship with our region and our local community. And we are finding ways to make that a strength of the college. Good. The ways that we talk to prospective students and to donors about how our students are engaged with the community and how the community is engaged back makes a huge difference for us. Some of you may have read that we just received a grant of over $1 million from the federal government to support our students who want to become teachers, in high school teachers or grade school teachers in STEM fields who will then teach in this local area. That's a perfect example of a partnership. And to apply for that grant, we needed to have partnerships with the schools and the superintendents. We needed to have the commitment from the college. And we were able then to attract resources to this community that will help all of us. So that's, again, another example of a local solution to something that is a national problem.
You touched a little bit on diversity. Maybe you could talk a little bit more. I mean, our student body is still drawn largely from Texas and the surrounding states, but we are more diverse than ever. Why is that important, and how does it relate to the mission of Austin College?
When I was first coming here, and I learned that most of our students come from Texas, I thought, well, probably we'll have to address that because we need diversity in the student body. And then Larry and I arrived in Texas and discovered that students come from, sometimes have to travel for 3 days to get here. They come from every kind of community you could imagine, of every race and background you could imagine. So yes, Texas is extremely diverse. And so we're able to both draw primarily from Texas and primarily serve the people of Texas, and at the same time have an institution that thrives on diversity, which is wonderful. It's important not simply as sort of a social justice piece. That is clearly important, right? We want to have our doors open wide. But it's also important because diversity is essential to our core mission. If what we're doing is providing a liberating education and making sure that our students are able to grow and to learn and to think, we can't do that in a classroom where everybody is a cookie cutter, same. So we couldn't offer the kind of quality education we offer without diverse classrooms and without diverse faculty and staff. And we've made significant headway on that in the last several years. I'm really grateful to our Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty, Sheila Piñeras. She has really worked to prioritize expanding the diversity of our faculty and our staff in academic affairs, and we've more than doubled the rates of the way we measure diversity in our faculty in those years. And that, I think, it makes an impact. Not only have we been able to continue to attract, the best and the brightest faculty, but they're able to be a representation to our students of what we value and who we are and how we believe people can learn.
Well, switch gears for a minute. In addition to fabulous shoes,
And back at ya.
you have also worn many different hats, more metaphorically than literally, but and certainly one of them is fundraiser in chief. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you have to balance that role with all the administrative responsibilities and everything else that you do.
One of the sort of jokes I heard about the college presidency is that a good college president spends 75% of her time on campus managing things and 75% of her time off campus raising money. And there's a real, like many jokes, that really, that I think is one of the biggest tensions in the presidency, is how to make that balance and how do you both reach out to the alumni and the funders and the donors and all of those people across the country, and in our case, sometimes across the world, and at the same time be present on campus as a visible part of the community and the local community. So I do struggle with that, and I would say, I don't always on any given day or week feel that I hit the balance properly, but I think overall we really do try to balance that, and it would be impossible, again, without a great senior team. Yes. I've been fortunate to work with two tremendous advancement vice presidents, Brooks Hull and Allison McBee Dawson, and so I am never on the road wasting my time. They make sure that if we're visiting with people, there's a reason we're there, the trip made sense, the people are ready to meet us, and that is time well spent. I'm not wandering around Times Square looking for an Austin College alum. They've got that set. And then I have a great team, that manages things here. And so Mike Imhoff and now Sheila, Tim, Nan, Lynn, Heidi, I know that I can be on the road for a few days and know that I won't say that chaos won't break out, but that if it breaks out, it will, or when it breaks out, it will be managed well. So,
well, that's what counts.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
We do have a campaign. We're still, keeping it a little bit on the down low, but would you like to give us an update on
I would
where
love
you
to give you an update. It's a secret just between you and I. But we are in the quiet phase of a campaign, and one of the nice things about this being a moment for a transition is that the new president will really get to be the public face of that campaign. Our board set an ambitious goal of $125 million, and we are just at the halfway mark now. And so the new president, one of the sort of problems they will have before them is a good problem to have. It will be to decide, when are we ready to go public? If you've ever been involved in a capital or a comprehensive campaign, you know that by the time you announce the campaign, you have a pretty good idea of where the money is coming from, and you kind of have that last chunk then to work on. So our board of trustees and Allison and her team and the new president will be very busy finishing that up. But it's very exciting, and the things we're raising money for, I think, are constitutive for Austin College. We want endowment growth. We want funding to support the kind of excellent, outstanding teaching that we do. There's a little bit of bricks and mortar, but it's not primarily a building campaign. It's primarily a people and program campaign to make sure we can do the things we want to do. We've seen some wonderful successes already. We'll be opening the Scarborough Center for Writing this fall, and our faculty has done a terrific job with that. We've been able to see some wonderful changes.
As far as things on campus, I know that one of the sort of holistic things that is near and dear to your heart is the campus has gone very green during your tenure. We are so, fortunate to have this fabulous Leeds building on campus. But I thought you might like to talk a little bit about some of the programs and projects.
I would be delighted to. And I sometimes tease Peter Schultz by saying, well, I'm the greening president. And Peter Schultz, for those of you who may not know him, directs our environmental studies and science program. But when I first got to Austin College, I was going to setting up my office, and Jenna was there helping me. And I said to her, I turned to her and I said, I need a recycling bin. There isn't a recycling bin in my office, and I'm going to have papers to recycle. Could you just call plant and get one? Well, within about 25 minutes, Pete Schultz was in my office with an entire team and fleet of environmentally concerned students saying, we hear that you're obsessed with recycling. So I had to become obsessed. I mean, how was I not going to live up to that?
That was a little tough.
And they had already had a number of initiatives that Oscar had started and that the faculty had started. And so we really kind of sat down and hammered out a plan. And we've really met some key benchmarks where our electricity is 100% wind power. We'll be carbon neutral. We've got a date set where we want to aim for that, and we've worked towards that. We built the Idea Center, which is our first LEED certified building. We have tremendous student engagement with those processes. The students have a competition every year where they try to show how much they can be energy conscious in their dorms, and they compete with each other. We have Green Serve coming up where our students engage in community projects with an environmental theme. So I think it has really become a hallmark of Austin College, and like many things in the presidency, it's not something that a president could come and sort of implant. You sort of look where there, well, that's a nice green metaphor, you look where there are seeds and you say, if I water this, this will grow. And so that's been sort of my role, but it is very gratifying to see it. Our students and this future, they have a deep sense of the importance of our planet. And they have it causes them deep pain to see the mess that many of us have made of it. So it's important to young people.
And what's the benefit to the wider community of having a green campus in their midst?
Well, I think it's a great model, as I said. We do a lot of community outreach through the Idea Center, and you can go take a self-guided tour of the greening features of that building. It means that we are trying to be good stewards of local resources, water and energy. And it also, I think, means that we can demonstrate that it's possible. You want your business to be wind-powered, you can come and we will happily talk with you about how we've done that. And then, again, our students will be out doing environmentally conscious projects. When I first was learning about Austin College and I learned about some of the things the students were interested in, I invited them, Larry might remember this, to come to the president's home and do an energy audit of the home. And so they came up with all these ideas of things we could do in the president's home to be more energy efficient. And we liked 99% of them. The 1% we didn't like was they attached something to our water heater so it was on a timer, so it wouldn't be heating during the hours that you're sleeping, which was fine until that day I had to leave for an early morning flight and stepped into a cold shower. That was a sacrifice that was hard for me to make. But our students would come and do energy audits like that of they won't mess with your water heater if you don't want them to, but of your homes and your businesses and tell you how you can conserve energy. It's great.
And speaking of that community, another tremendous focus of your energy has been on fostering connections, not just here in Sherman, but with the whole Texoma region. So again, tell us, I know some of these things, again, are very near and dear to your heart. Tell us about some of those initiatives.
One of the things that I'm most pleased about is the founding of the Center for Community and Regional Development. We've already made wonderful progress there. We owe a tremendous debt to the late Don Rogers, who I know many of you know and love, and the efforts he made to create projects and to build that bridge between faculty and student learning opportunities and needs in the community. And we will definitely carry that on, and the college will carry that on in his memory and with his support. And I'm thankful to Carrie Wacker, who with her experience both as mayor and as working on our team, is directing the center and really looking for those partnerships. Brooks Hull loved to say this, and I often quote it, usually without attribution because I'm the president, that the international global headquarters of Austin College is in Sherman, Texas, right, and is here in Texoma. And that there's a deep truth there, which is that the college's fortunes and the community's fortunes are deeply intertwined. Bill Douglas often says, looks at it from the other perspective and says, talks about how much the community has benefited from the college being here. And so those two pieces, we are inevitably tied together. And we have to be sensitive to how we can help achieve mutual goals. And it's so both strategically, but I think also personally, because this community is so warm and people have been so welcoming to me and Larry, and our children. And that sense that I want to share with the community the resources of the college, and I also want our students to come to understand what a community like this can offer. That definitely drives a lot of the things that I've done in this area.
Well, we have just one question left.
All right.
And it is really an opportunity for you to leave a final message, not just with the people in this room, but with kangaroos all over the world, wherever they may be. So, please.
Well, I think I'm gonna pause for a minute so I can think of something good to say. And Lara, if you wouldn't mind, you might want to leave a little bit of a message. You're an impromptu speaker, so maybe you would. I know you wanted to just say thank you to people.
I will give you a little time.
Thank you.
The clock is ticking.
Well, I just want to say hello to everyone. It's so wonderful that you are all here for this event, and we're going to be seeing you over the next months for sure. But it's a wonderful question, Luan. And about 8 years ago, Marjorie said to me, she said, "Larry, I'm thinking of this college in Texas. What would you think?" And without hesitation, I said, "Let's go for it." Mm-hmm. And we're adventurers at heart. And what I want to say, I think, is that this community has taken all of the stress out of it. Mm-hmm. We knew so early that this was home for us. There's so many wonderful qualities. One thing is we discovered very quickly is that Texas hospitality and Sherman and Texoma hospitality is the real deal. Mm-hmm. And we were the beneficiaries of that, and we fell in love with this entire community because of that. And also the wonderful can-do spirit. Yeah. You know, you put 40 people in a room and the idea center gets put together. And that's true.
I remember that room. You were in that room. You were in that room.
And that's true not only at the big level of buildings and large projects, but at the small level of getting wonderful things done. And so I guess my thought for you is just really to thank you all for the incredible friendship and hospitality. You know, we are moving, but we're going to be roos for life.
Yeah.
You're not done with us. And so just thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
How do you top that? That was beautiful. Thank you, sweetheart. You know, looking out at this room, and we just see so many friends, and I can't start naming people by names, but it's wonderful to see Oscar and Anna Laura here, who have been such good friends to us. It's wonderful to see Kendra here, who takes good care of the entire family, including the canine portion of it. And so having so many people here who have just worked so hard to make it possible for us to do this work is very meaningful. And I think, you know, this is certainly a time where we've talked a little bit about some of the things I brought to the college or my perspectives, but the college has changed me. I'm a different person than I was 8 years ago. And it's changed me in the same way it changes our students. You come here, you cannot help but be invigorated by the climate of ideas, by the sense that we are a supportive community, but nevertheless we challenge each other. And I feel that I'm both a better person and will be a better president because of my time here. So it's definitely changed me on every level as well. And I feel like it's been a period of incredible personal growth for me. I think my message is, to echo Larry's, is just one of deep appreciation to be, having been given the trust to play this role and the support from so many of you as we tried to do our very best, and I tried to bring my very best self to this work every single day. I'm incredibly grateful for that trust. In this room, and certainly beyond the room, I mean, we've laughed together, we've cried together, we've gritted our teeth together, we've put on a false smile together. I mean, we've been through it all on so many levels. And we've done it, I think, always with an eye towards what is meaningful for the students and what will ultimately make Austin College the best college. And we may not have always agreed about what that was, but we all agreed that that was the goal. And this is a very special place. Austin College is not just one more liberal arts college in the list. It has a spirit and a culture that is very unique, and I'm proud to have been part of it, and I will be proud of that the rest of my life. And as Larry said, we'll be back. So this is not farewell. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a difficult thing to bring this to a close because we all know the trajectory, but it's
Thank
been
you.
a privilege to be able to sit here and chat with you. And
Thank you.
And I know it's been a privilege for everybody to hear, your thoughts and have a chance to say some final words.
Well, this was a great opportunity for me, and you asked great questions. So she obviously has had a good Austin College education.
That's right.
And knows how to do that. But a special thank you to you and your colleagues on the Board of Trustees. Our board are our most precious volunteers. They give of their time and their energy and their wisdom and their treasure to Austin College in ways that both visible and invisible. And so thank you to you and to the entire board as well.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.